So unless you've been living under a rock, then you know that Tyreek Hill was pulled over outside of the Dolphins football stadium just before the home opener. So there have been a lot of questions about whether or not that was an appropriate stop, who was in the right, who was in the wrong. Well, I'm about to give you a criminal defense attorney's perspective on the motor vehicle stop of Tyreek Hill. Hi, I'm Daniel M. Rosenberg. I'm a criminal defense attorney and the founding partner of Rosenberg Parent Associates. Now, I've had a lot of questions about the motor vehicle stop of Tyreek Hill, so let's watch the body-worn camera footage and see what happened. So that's Tyreek's vehicle just past the motorcycle officer. And what we subsequently found out is that there was another law enforcement officer that observed Tyreek Hill's vehicle. It's exceeding the speed limit in a construction zone, and they called ahead to this officer to pull him over. And at this point, he's in the process of trying to effectuate a motor vehicle stop. So at this point, you can hear the law enforcement officer say, "Because you're speeding," and he turns on his body-worn camera. At least in New Jersey, when you have an interaction with law enforcement and they're wearing their body-worn camera, they have to turn it on and they have to turn the audio on. So what we can see here is the officer is turning his audio on when he's engaging in conversation with Mr. Hill or with Tyreek Hill. He then says, "Because you were speeding," you can hear Tyreek Hill say, "How fast was I going?" He tells him to pull over, which he does. Now he's radioing back and saying, "We got him here, we pulled over this vehicle." And at this point, they don't have any idea that this is Tyreek Hill on his way to the home opener.
Don't knock on my window like that, man. Don't knock on my window. Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Don't knock on my window. Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Knock on my window like that, no. Like what? Don't knock on my window like that. Why are you having up?
All right, so law enforcement officer pulls him over, and does he have the ability to pull him over? Yes. He observed a motor vehicle infraction. All the law I'm talking to you about is New Jersey law. So if this happened in New Jersey, you're allowed to be pulled over if an officer observes a motor vehicle infraction, which he did. He pulls over Tyreek Hill and is allowed to ask for license, insurance, registration. Now Tyreek Hill, in response to the officer pulling up, says, "Don't knock on my window like that." He does that about 3 or 4 times. The officer then says, well, something along the lines of, "Well, you need to know that I'm here. Why weren't you wearing your seatbelt?" So Tyreek Hill absolutely has the right to do this. He's got a First Amendment privilege. Now, before we move on, I want to highlight that this is the absolute wrong way you want to start your motor vehicle stop. What I generally do is advise my clients that when they get stopped by law enforcement, regardless of whether or not you did anything wrong, the goal is to put yourself in the best position for the best possible result. Instead, Tyreek Hill has been confrontational, not answered questions, and is somewhat demeaning to the officer. Is he allowed to do that? Absolutely, he's allowed to do that. But it's creating a dynamic which is less than favorable to him. So at this point, the officer is asking him for his license, registration, and it appears that Tyreek Hill complies. He hands him his license. Let's see what happens next.
No, but I have to love to let you know I'm here. Now we got nowhere to talk to. Give me my ticket, bro, so I can go. I'm gonna be late, man. Do what you gotta do. Keep it down. Hey, keep your window down.
Tyreek Hill's being dismissive, absolutely can do this. He's saying, "Look, just do what you gotta do. Give me my ticket. I'm late. I gotta go. This isn't important to me. Just hurry up and move on." Is he allowed to do that? Absolutely. But you run the risk of creating a dynamic where you've got an officer who's going to be upset with you. Is the officer allowed to be upset with him? No. Should he be upset with him? No. This is what it's like dealing with the public. This is what officers are trained to do, to deal with individuals, and to deal with individuals who are upset, and also to take the verbal communications, pleasant or otherwise. And so, yeah, he's allowed to do this. He's creating a dynamic that's not favorable to him. Then he rolls up his window. At this point, the officer tells him to roll his window down. Now, I don't know what the law is in the state of Florida. Do you have to keep your window down or not? But I can tell you in the state of New Jersey, if a law enforcement officer during a motor vehicle stop gives you an order, you have to comply.
Hey, keep your window down. Keep your window down. I'm gonna get you out.
At this point, he says, "Roll your window down." Tyreek Hill ignores him for a moment or two. Then he knocks on the window and says, "Hey, roll your window down." Tyreek Hill rolls his window down slightly and says, "Don't tell me what to do." Says, "You don't roll your window down, I'm going to get you out of the car." Now, I can tell you, in New Jersey, a law enforcement officer can order the operator of the vehicle out of the car for just about any reason whatsoever. So at the initiation of this stop, he could have said, "Get out of the car, I want to talk to you." He didn't. Now that it's continuing to escalate, he's asking him out of the motor vehicle. This is perfectly lawful for this officer to do. It's also perfectly lawful for Tyreek Hill to act in the manner in which he's acting.
As a matter of fact, get out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car right now. We're not playing this game. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. What part of the
All right, so this is where you lose me. He's fine asking him to get out of the vehicle. It's unnecessary and inappropriate for him to say, "If you don't roll the window down, I'm going to break your window." That's escalating a situation that doesn't need to be escalated. Again, this is a motor vehicle stop for a reckless driving and/or speeding ticket. Threatening to break someone's window is inappropriate and unnecessary. Then when he gets him out of the motor vehicle, another officer physically pulls the door up, and then before Tyreek Hill has the opportunity to comply, he pulls him out of the vehicle. Tyreek Hill must be given the opportunity to comply. And if he doesn't comply, then they can take further action, meaning the law enforcement officer. In this case, he was never given an opportunity to comply. He physically grabs him and pulls him out of the vehicle. That wasn't necessary and was inappropriate.
We will. Good, bro. It is good. Hey, don't worry about it. I have enough to phone.
All right, every bit of this is unnecessary and inappropriate. He physically pulls Tyreek Hill out of the car and throws him down to the ground. And you don't quite know whether or not Tyreek Hill is complying, but even if he is complying, it looks the same as if he's resisting, because you've got an upset and aggressive officer who's pushing him to the ground. He then is yelling at him. He's telling him, "You're confused. You listen to us." And then he tells him to stop crying. Again, I want to highlight Tyreek Hill is not trained to deal with the public, or should I say trained to deal with law enforcement. Law enforcement is trained to deal with the public. And one of the fundamental principles of the First Amendment is open and honest criticism of the government. So Tyreek Hill is allowed to be critical and to criticize law enforcement even during a motor vehicle stop, so long as he continues to comply. And in this case, while Tyreek Hill's conduct was less than favorable, it was perfectly lawful and permissible for him to do. So the interactions with Tyreek Hill goes on from that point. But I want to fast forward to a portion of the video where there is another football player who stopped and had interaction with law enforcement.
I'm not driving. Who's the driver? It's my car. All right, move. You gotta move right now. Let me have your license. You're gonna take it too. I'm coming. Let me have your license. You're gonna take it. Let me have your license. I'm leaving. I'm not playing. Let me have your license. Your license right now. Your license right now. You're not gonna give me your license? You're not gonna give me your license? Let me have your license. Your license.
All right, so what's going on here is another member of the Miami Dolphins football team stopped and was asking, "What's going on? Can you tell me what's going on?" And truthfully, law enforcement has no obligation to tell them anything. They're addressing the situation, whatever it is. They don't have an obligation to explain themselves to anyone standing around. They're allowed to create distance, but they can't stop anyone from videotaping, from asking questions, and from generally standing around outside of a safe distance. They are, in this situation, I think, lawfully allowed to tell this individual to move his car. But what I want to highlight is, this individual comes up and says, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on?" Another officer says, "Move your car, move your car." Now, this officer approaches him and says, "Move your car, you're going to get a ticket. Move your car, you're going to get a ticket." He says, "That's it. Give me your license. Give me your license." And he's like, "Man, I'm just trying to find out what's going on. Just trying to find out what's going on." Then he says, "Oh, you don't want to give me your license?" And he moves forward and essentially is saying, "All right, I'm going to arrest you." This is someone who is illegally parked, allegedly illegally parked near a scene where they're trying to defuse or de-escalate a situation. They've got passersby and they've got people asking what's going on. The entire goal of this is to get this person to keep going. So, all right, you don't want to leave? Then give me your license. All right, man, I'm leaving. All right, then go. All right, nope, you can't leave now. Now give me your license. He's like, all right, man, all right, I'll just get out of here. Let's see where it goes from there.
License right now. Hey, your license right now. Or I'm gonna lock you up. Your license right now. Your license right now. You're dealing with me now. Your license right now.
What's more, he says, look, I'm leaving. And this officer escalates it even further and says, you want me to arrest you? And what you can hear on the video is he grabs his handcuffs. So he's saying, hey, I told you to leave. Now you got to stay because I'm going to write you a traffic summons. And because you're not giving me your license, now I may just arrest you. This is the officer's frustration and aggravation. And this is also the officer creating and escalating the situation beyond what it needed to be. This helped to fan the flames of the chaos that happened at this particular scene. So here's what I can tell you. Not only do I represent criminal defendants, but I also represent law enforcement officers when they're charged with conduct like this, whether it's disciplinary misconduct or criminal charges. And what I can tell you is I don't think that Tyreek Hill started this interaction off in the best possible way, and I think he was setting himself up for a more confrontational interaction. I can also tell you that it's certainly within his rights to do that if that's the manner in which he chooses to interact with law enforcement. It is not appropriate for law enforcement to interact with Tyreek Hill in the manner in which they did. So if you or someone you know has been charged with a crime or has been stopped by law enforcement, you have questions about the lawfulness of that stop, please contact our office. We'll take the time we need to assess your situation and give you blunt and honest advice. And if you like the contents of this video, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if there's a topic you'd like to learn more about, please contact our office. I'd love to hear about it. We are criminal trial attorneys. We have your back. That's what we do.